Chapter 45, Buzzards and a Valkyrie. Still want to swing past Sandy Shores? Bruce swiveled his head to see the choppers gaining on them. Fuck no, Jeff exclaimed. Head north, put as much distance between us and them as possible. Try to lead them away from the others. You got it. The Dodo was not proving to be the best getaway vehicle. It didn't take long for them to catch up. Once the Buzzards were within range, there was little they could do to avoid the onslaught. They took heavy fire, and before long, one of the engines was burning out. Jeff looked out his window and saw flames licking along the edge of the wing. Bruce, we're on fire. It's just a little bit of fire. God, you sound so much like Jack right now. Jeff sighed and checked his seatbelt was secure, picking up a grenade launcher from the duffel bag at his feet before securing the strap of the bag to the leg of the seat. Bruce gave him a funny look as he banked hard to avoid the incoming gunfire. Jeff smirked and swung open the side door of the Dodo, kicking it hard as he did so. Combined with the force of the wind resistance, it was enough to rip the door off its hinges. Wind ripped through the cockpit. Jeff, a little exposed there, aren't you? You know what they say about making an omelet. Omelets taste like shit. Jeff chuckled, taking aim with the grenade launcher. Yeah, that. He took a shot at the nearest buzzard, the grenade streaking towards it, only to strike the very outer edge of the rotor blade and surprisingly not explode on impact, but get thrown back a short distance before detonating. Oh, come on! Jeff yelled in frustration as the buzzard was rocked by the blast, but relatively unharmed. What kind of bullshit was that? That should have hit them. Jeff? Jeff? Bruce was looking behind him again, transfixed on something in the distance. What the fuck is that? Jeff turned around to see a fully armed, sleek military helicopter. Oh, good, he commented casually, taking aim with the grenade launcher, this time missing completely, the buzzard having dropped just out of range for safety. About time. Bruce blinked disbelievingly. That's a goddamn flying gunship, Jeff. Jeff laughed a slow, deliberate chuckle that said, I know. Wait, are they on our side? Jeff giggled and nodded. It's our chopper. Where the hell'd you pick up one of those? Jeff grinned. Ryan's been saving it, keeping it in a warehouse he didn't think I used. Found it when he disappeared, so I might have loaned it out to be useful. You're kidding. Bruce gave him an incredulous look that somehow managed to simultaneously say, that's not cool, and I would have done the same thing. Look, I know the guy's been through a lot, but he's also been hoarding a fucking Valkyrie. Besides, he's gonna be fucking thankful I found it when it saves all our asses. Bruce banked sharply as the Dodo would allow anyway, to move out of the potential line of fire. Who's flying it? Bruce suddenly realized. And why didn't you offer it to us? Jeff smirked and tapped into the radio. Craig? Bolin? Can you guys hear me? Loud and clear, Jeffrey. Bolin's voice returned over the radio. Jeff turned to Bruce. I don't trust you guys not to crash it. Bruce looked like he was about to protest, but thought better of it. Okay, that's probably fair. Craig, call in with Jack and Mika first, Jeff instructed over the radio. They're gonna need some help getting clear. Craig scoffed in reply. They are at least armed. You guys are sitting ducks. Or flying ducks. Or dodos, or whatever. But we'll see what we can do about these guys first. Jeff watched on as the Valkyrie swooped in on the Buzzards heading towards them. That thing was fast. And armored. And the 40mm cannon capable of firing explosive rounds definitely gave it a bit of an edge. Jeff suspected the attack boys were going to have a hard time giving it back, so long as they didn't manage to destroy it first. Jeff and Bruce watched on as it annihilated the tail rotor of the Buzzard closest to them and put it in a spin. Another of the explosive rounds impacted the body and it burst into flames and dropped like a rock from the sky. The second swerved away and looked like it was making a run for it. A wise decision. Nicely done. Now go help the guys. I'll get Steffi to patch everyone through to the comms. Cheers, Jeff, Bolin confirmed. We'll circle back for the sweep after we've got some of the heat off the lats. Good luck, boys. They watched as the Valkyrie took off southwest to intercept the Buzzard closing on the crew's cargo bob. Jeff hoped they'd be okay. So, you've got a plan from here, right? As soon as we fly over the peak, we're gonna bail. If I angle her right, she should cruise for a bit, and that'll buy us some time to get the hell out of sight, Bruce explained as they headed toward Mount Chiliad. And then where? You know Donkey Punch Family Farm? Jeff rolled his eyes. Fucking sounds like a name the boys had come up with. It's a front, Bruce confessed with a shrug. Elise and James came up with the name. Jeff nodded, less than surprised. Figures. The barn's one of our better-kept secrets, Bruce grinned before growing serious again. Also, if any of the boys are seriously hurt, we'll send them to the altruist camp. You're kidding. The nudist hippies? Well, technically they're more like nudist cultists, and they seem to follow Peak. No one's really sure why. Not even Peak? Bruce laughed. Especially not Peak. He has no fucking clue. But they have medics, and they're pretty good. Not to mention no one wants anything to do with them. So that's another one of our better-kept secrets. No shit, Jeff muttered. I need your phone again. Bruce handed it over, and Jeff dialed Steffi again. Steffi, need a sit rep on the boys. Are they injured? There was a long pause, and Jeff's face fell. Shit, thanks. He hung up, face grim and white. We're gonna go straight to the camp. I want to meet them there. Bruce looked worried, but he didn't argue. Jeff absently chewed his thumbnail. Hey, if we survive this, remind me to give Steffi a raise. The cargo bob was airborne, but there were choppers and ground teams in pursuit, not to mention the gangs that would shortly be onto them. Do we have everybody? Mika demanded from the front. Andy looked around and did a quick head count. Yeah, everyone's here. What's their status? How are we doing back there? Mika was relaying information back to Steffi on another channel. Jack was hunched over Gavin, checking him over. They've nearly bled him dry. We can get his fluids up, but he really needs blood. Michael too, but at least he's conscious. How's Jeremy? Where was he shot? Matt and Trevor had laid him out on the floor of the cargo bob next to Gavin and Michael. His eyes were closed, and there was a tear in his blazer right over his heart. Andy crouched over him, but Ryan nearly pushed them all out of the way to get to Jeremy, pulling open his horrendously purple jacket and pulling up his shirt to reveal armor. Not the light armor he usually sported, but heavy plate armor like his own. The bullet, or whatever remained of it, still lodged deep in the plate over his heart, which was now severely cracked. Ryan immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He had taken hits like this before, and while they hurt like hell, it probably cracked ribs, and he'd have an impressive and painful bruise later. It was survivable. He cut away the armor vest with his still bloody knife and threw it aside, where Trevor immediately picked it up to examine it. The round had barely broken skin, but already the area was red and swelling. Ryan pressed his ears to Jeremy's chest and heard the reassuring whoosh of air in his lungs and a strong heartbeat. Ryan ran a hand through Jeremy's hair and over his head, trying to check for any signs of head injury, feeling for bumps or lacerations. Jeremy's eyes flicked open, and he immediately grimaced in pain. Hey, Ryan, Jeremy said quietly. Chumbawamba. Ryan relaxed a little, and he clapped a hand on Jeremy's shoulder, the side he hadn't just been shot. Jeremy, you're a goddamn hero. I learned it from you, he muttered weakly with a slight laugh as he lay his head back down, wincing in pain again. That sat uncomfortably with Ryan. Yeah? Well, thank God you finally upgraded your armor. Next to Jeremy, Michael was trying to sit up. Gavin? Michael's voice was unsteady. To be fair, none of them were in what could be considered good condition. He needs blood. He's critically low. Fluids will get the pressure up, but he needs blood to carry oxygen, or he could end up with brain damage. Jack couldn't bring himself to think of Gavin like that. He didn't want to put the image in anyone else's mind. He could go into a coma. Ryan nodded, understanding but not entirely absorbing all the new information. His brain still screaming at him to do more, do something. What can we do? What's his blood type? Trevor asked Michael, his brow furrowing. Michael looked lost and shook his head. Fucked if I know. Alright then, Matt, what's your blood type? Matt squeezed his eyes shut, trying to remember. AB, I think? Trevor shook his head. That's not good. He'd have to be AB too. We need an O negative to be sure, and even then, there are issues of MHC incompatibility to... I'm O, Ryan interrupted. Oh, what? Trevor asked, a little startled. Positive or negative? That's the more important part. I don't know, Ryan admitted, annoyed. But if we don't do something right now, he's going to die. Unless someone here knows his blood type, or their whatever type you need, this could be our best shot. Ryan, you're bleeding. You can't watch me, Ryan growled, a little too aggressively. Ryan, we can't afford to lose you again, Jack said plainly. That hurt, but he knew losing Gavin would hurt them more. It's just a flesh wound. He pulled his hand away from the slowly seeping red stain on his side. It did look like the bleeding had slowed, but it was probably far deeper than he cared to admit. The little bastard had done a number on him. He had a sneaking suspicion he'd been pissing blood later. I'll tap out before I pass out. No! Jack snapped. Not this time, Ryan. Sit the fuck down, and when we get to wherever the hell we're going, you're gonna get stable, and then, maybe, you can help Gavin. He's only just lost consciousness, right? Yeah, but... Ryan started. Ryan, sit down and shut up. We don't need to do this now. There's time. And besides, you can't help if you're dead. Jack's eyes focused on something outside the cargo bob and narrowed. But you can help keep them off our tail. He nodded out the side door to the two approaching choppers. They were out of range, but they were bad news, especially because they looked heavily armed. Ryan found his nerves redirected yet again. Hey, Jack, Mika, anybody? Kovic's voice came over the comms. Adam? Mika replied. Hey, there you are. What are you doing here? Why are you in our comms? Mika demanded as she took the cargo bob higher to clear the incoming gunfire. Jeff got Steffi to broadcast your comm lines and GPS tracking details. Told us you guys needed a hand, so here I am, Kovic explained. Jeff's with Bruce, by the way. They're doing okay, from what I've heard. And James and Elise are with Lindsay. They're laying low. All right, then. So is there a plan? I've got some real injured boys in the back. There was a pause from Adam, and one of the vans following them suddenly exploded, a glaring, bright orange supercar rapidly catching up to them. Sorry, just dealing with some things down here, Adam said coolly. Mika let out a nervous giggle. I think I can see that. Oh, good. You can see us? The orange Zenturno? Yeah, I can definitely see you. That's kind of hard to miss. Jack and Ryan, listening over the comms, leaned out the side to see what they were talking about. Lawrence was half hanging out the passenger side window, throwing sticky bombs on every van they passed as they sped along Khalifa Road at breakneck speed, zipping in and out of vans and explosions. They looked fun. Yeah, head up to the altruist camp. Pete's got a medical set up there. What I'm going to need you to do is drop the guys off and take the cargo bob back towards Paleto Bay. That should give Jeff and Bruce time to do what they need to do, and whoever's in the flying gunship up there time to do their thing and hopefully clean up. Flying gunship? Jack asked, leaning out to look behind them. Wait, they're on our side? Hey guys, a voice that Ryan recognized as Craig, one of the attack gang, came over the comms. We heard you needed some help. Just do us a favor and don't shoot us down, okay? Craig, what the hell? Jack asked, bewildered. No time to explain. We'll get some of the heat off you, and then we're circling back for Jeff and Bruce. Is that a Valkyrie? Ryan asked, squinting into the distance. Where the fuck did you get a Valkyrie? Jeff said we could borrow it, Craig replied nonchalantly over the sound of rapid, heavy machine gunning. It took Ryan a minute to put it together. Wait, is that's my Valkyrie? Jeff said it was the crew's. God damn it, Jeff, that's my Valkyrie. I was saving that. Ryan yelled in frustration, more to himself than anyone. Saving it for what? Jack asked. Ryan shrugged helplessly, feeling the pinch from his wound in his side. You know. Ryan, if it makes you feel any better, I'll try not to crash it, okay? Bolin added, interrupting. Thanks, Ryan replied. I'd appreciate that. Jeff and Bruce cruised along at top speed that felt far too slow for comfort. Admittedly, though, it was quite picturesque. The explosion of the attack chopper as it was shot down by Craig and Bolin and the Valkyrie painted the sky in pretty bursts of red and orange and black smoke, contrasted against the clear, pale morning sky. On the road below, Kovic and Lawrence were wreaking havoc on the convoy tailing them, leaving behind a trail of destruction that left the roads near undrivable and, with any luck, would dissuade rival gangs from following them. Well, this was less than ideal. Why would they try this in broad daylight? Jeff puzzled, scratching his head. Well, I'm tired as shit, Bruce confessed. Not used to getting up at the ass crack of dawn, so there's that. They probably weren't expecting shit to go down this way, so that's another thing. And it makes it harder for us to get away. But they're exposing themselves just as much. What the fuck kind of sense does that make? Jeff was doing that thing again, redirecting brainpower to processing the problem in the background. All of the clues were there. He just needed to sort them out. Bruce shrugged and shook his head. He twisted in his seat to glance behind them. They were still being tailed, and now there were more choppers incoming from Los Santos. Wait, are those fucking cops? Bruce squinted in a distance, just able to glimpse the patterns on the choppers. What are they getting involved for? Something about all of this is real fucking fishy. They were almost at the peak of Chiliad, preparing to jump. Both had preemptively put on their parachutes, and they could follow the descent of the mountain directly to the Altros camp. With a bit of luck, the gliding plane would be enough of a distraction for them to drift at least most of the way there before they'd have to cut away their parachutes to avoid being seen. Bruce's phone buzzed with a text, and Jeff immediately opened it, recognizing the number as Steffi's. It just read, Inbound LSPD choppers. CC is taking care of it. Jeff laughed. What? Bruce asked. We're probably not going to have to worry about those cops. Pretty soon they're going to be flying over Cowchop's range. Those crazy bastards. Shame we're about to miss it, Jeff added with a smirk as he watched the peak pass beneath them and Bruce jammed the controls. Gonna be a hell of a fireworks show. You guys are clear for now. Drop the boys and get the cargo bob out of there, Adam instructed Mika from the ground, no longer leading a convoy of black vans, but speeding away from a pile of black wreckage. Find a safe place to ditch it wherever you can, and then head up to Donkey Punch Family Farm. You know the one? You're kidding. Mika rolled her eyes. You could almost hear it over the comms. Boys. Actually, that was mostly Elisa's doing, Lawrence corrected. Mika shook her head as she began the descent. Who's with me? She called into the back of the cargo bob. Annie's head popped into view. I'm going to help unload them, then I'll go with you. Trevor and I aren't injured, so we'll stay with you too. We should team up just in case they do end up following us, Matt added. Mika looked briefly relieved that she wouldn't be on her own, before the cool air of control was back. They touched down, and Jack, Trevor, Andy, and Matt helped to unload the injured Jeremy, Michael, Ryan, and Gavin, and get them inside a small cabin where Peake was waiting amidst a crowd of seemingly random men in surgical scrubs. They laid Gavin in one of the cots, and Michael took the spot next to him. Ryan and Jeremy sat down on the cot on the other side of Gavin and tried to stay out of the way, letting the medical team, or whatever they were, tend to Gavin first. Jack stayed with the lads and Ryan, while Andy, Trevor, and Matt ran back to the cargo bob just as Kovic and Lawrence arrived. Adam and Lawrence hurried inside to escape the cloud of dust kicked up by their Zenturno in the touchdown of the cargo bob, exchanging a nod with the leaving crew on their way. Glad to see you made it, Adam commented, looking genuinely happy to see them. How the fuck did you find us? Jack asked as Peake's surgical team bustled around Michael and Gavin, checking their drips and replacing them with blood bags they seemingly had on hand, measuring their blood pressure and doing other various monitoring things. They kept trying to check Ryan's bleeding side, but Ryan kept swatting them away from him, directing their attention to the lads. He insisted he could wait. Adam held up his phone to show a crude flashing dot on a map. Michael's tracking chip. Shit, Jeff broadcast that? Yeah, you might want to nip that in the bud right here. Lawrence suggested. Don't want that kind of information falling into the wrong hands. Ryan had already gotten his knife out and was looking around as if looking for something to sterilize his blade. Jesus, Ryan. Come on, man. We're in a fucking surgery. Adam shook his head and rolled his eyes, gesturing to the space around them. Someone tending Gavin shouted something unintelligible. What was that? Michael asked, sitting upright, despite protestations from one of the men connecting his IV for transfusion. What does that mean? Gavin, Peake said simply, pushing past everyone to get to the lad who was still unconscious, despite being freshly hooked up to an infusion of apparently O-negative blood. He took a stethoscope from one of the men, medics or nurses or cultists or whatever they were, and listened for a heartbeat. Compressions, he instructed, and without question the man obeyed. Peake took Gavin's wrist and, frowning, felt for a pulse. Michael, Jeremy, Ryan, and Jack watched on nervously in silence. It felt like it went on forever, but in reality it was probably only a few minutes. Michael's eyes went wide, his face went pale, and for a moment he thought he was going to throw up. Gavin wasn't breathing. His heart wasn't beating. He tried to remember the last thing he'd said to him. Michael's words came out, babbling, choked. Not again! No, 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 Gav! Jack held his shoulders gently. Ryan and Jeremy exchanged a fretful look. Peake let go of Gavin's wrist and stepped up. He adjusted the flow controller on the IV drip, pushed the other man aside, and took over compressions. He looked at Michael, the expression on his face calm but determined. You should know better than most when life tries to steal something from you. He looked back down at Gavin and continued the rhythmic compressions, pressing down more forcefully on Gavin's chest. A few seconds later, Gavin gasped a breath. Sometimes you have to steal it back.